Hey, everybody. Thanks for being on the Mastery Session today. We have a great guest from Irvine, California, someone that I know has challenges like everybody else in doing this business. And we're going to talk to him about just this consistency that sometimes people have problems with, and family balance and everything else that goes on with this business. So anyway, Marcos, thanks for being on.
Hey, Bill. No, thanks for having me on and inviting me on. I appreciate it. Hopefully, I can be of service and help here.
Yeah. Well, you know what I didn't realize, and everybody has a different background coming into the real estate business. You were in construction, right?
Yeah.
So tell me what got you from construction into getting into the retail residential resale.
So real estate. Yeah. Well, it was called the recession. That's what got me into real estate.
That will do it.
Yeah. So I was building homes. I was doing that kind of stuff, and my wife was always in real estate. And obviously, no one wanted to build anything. No one was lending money anymore during that time. So I had to kind of reinvent myself. And my wife was doing REOs, and so I started, to pique interest into it. I said, I'm gonna get my license, and then I started getting into real estate, and that's how it happened.
All right. So from construction, I'm always curious. So now you get into this other field, and did anybody tell you anything about how to get business? How did you figure out how to change from that to this? Because first of all, California was going to some incredible, that was like people were jumping off the cliffs and prices dropping like dramatically.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was crazy seeing what was going on. We didn't even know what was going on because everyone got caught with their pants down, I guess. So switching over, I used to meet with people and sell them the contract. So I was always into talking to people and trying to, get them to use my service to do the remodel or the new construction. So I think the people part was there. It was just learning how do I find people, and I joined Keller Williams Realty, and then I met you through Keller as well, and things just it's just follow the process. They told me call for sale by owners. I was like, what is that? And I started calling them, and that's how I got involved in prospecting. And then after that, it's just kind of history.
Yeah, and your price range, Irvine, Orange County has an interesting price range. You can go from where to where. What is the average price there at Irvine?
Probably about 750,000 in Orange County, and it can go as high as 60 million. Those that guy Josh Altman just listed a home here for 60 million in Orange County. So,
nice little paycheck, right?
Yeah, nice little paycheck. Yeah. And it can go as low as 300,000 for a 2-bedroom condo or something like that.
Yeah. So you have a family. How many kids do you have?
I got 2 kids and a wife.
2 kids and a wife. I think I've seen that movie. So 2 kids and a wife, and she's also helping you. So how did you structure this? So you came into business, now you're going into residential, because there are guys and girls out there, men and women that have their spouse involved in the business. So tell me, how did that work out?
Well, as you know, it's complicated, but we make it work. It's just really having expectations of what she's willing to do and what she wants to do in the business and what I'm supposed to do. And so she helps out a lot on the back end. She does a lot of customer service. Right now, she's helping one of our sellers find a property to rent. So she's out there showing them rental properties. So, I just don't push her to do anything that she's not comfortable doing. And then I keep it safe that way.
Very smart person. Very smart person. So tell me, as far as your schedule, so she's out doing that. And then the one thing I know about you, and that's why I wanted people to learn about you, is that, for lack of a better word, you're a grinder. You definitely are calling fizzles and expired. You're calling people. Tell us your schedule so we have an idea how you work it.
Right. Okay. So I wake up at, as early as like 5:30 in the morning. At that time, I read a book, something. I'm trying to read 2 books a month, one on mindset and one on some sort of sales skills or business skill. And so I read for about 30 minutes. Then if I have time, I'll do some workout at home. And then at the office, role playing by 7:30. So my goal, and I'm human just like everyone else. So if I'm not out the door by 7:15, I'm not at the office in time, because then I have to role play at 7:30. So I got to be in a suit and tie by 7:10, 7:15, and out the door, so I can meet my role play partner at the office and role play with them. And then I'm on the phones by 8 o'clock, and I'm calling the first people I call are expireds, canceled, and then I go switch over to FISBOs, and then I switch over to the other lead sources, because I think you and I had a conversation at one point of being stuck on the expireds, because I was stuck there for a few years, and just that's the only thing I wanted to
You weren't
go.
mixing it up. You weren't mixing it up, right?
Yeah, I think all I wanted to do was just call expireds, and I did well with them. I mean, I got to a point where I could list 15, 20 a year, but I mean, it was a grind, like what you're saying.
What so two things that I think I don't want everybody to just graze over. You're there at a certain time, and you're role playing. How important has role playing been to your business and doing that, do you think?
Well, I think that's the most critical thing, because if you don't know what to say, and you don't know how to overcome objections, and how to have like sometimes more of a freestyle conversation, people will just blow you off. They don't know you. You're a random person calling them. So the only thing they have to hear is your voice and what you're saying. So if it doesn't come across correctly, then I mean, they're just going to hang up on you. You sound like another salesperson.
And I remember role playing when I first started years ago. I've been at this thing for 36 years, but you kind of go, oh, I don't want people to know how bad I am. How was it in the beginning when you first started role playing? Was it hard to get started?
Yes and no, because I didn't know any better. All I would do is watch videos on different scripts, and calling expireds, and calling for sale by owners. So when I got into the business, they said, here's a script, call these for sale by owners. And so it wasn't that hard for me to pick it up, because I didn't know any better. I didn't have a lot of, I guess, objection to using a script.
It's very interesting, because I think I forget about the fact that some people just didn't know any better. They come in, here it is, make the calls. It's like with the Espresso tools that we have, here it is, here's the system. If you're new, just do it. And how important was it in the beginning for your success to just do something that was regimented, that was already scripted out for you? Because you could make up anything. You could have done the Marcos thing or something, your own thing.
Well, I mean, again, I didn't know any better, and I didn't know it any better until one day my broker calls me in the office. I was probably in the business now 6 months. I was like, man, I must be doing something wrong, because he says, hey, I'd like you to come into the office. I'd like to talk to you here at the office. And I said, can we talk over the phone? And he says, no, I'd like you to come in. And I thought, man, I'm just doing something wrong. So I show up, and I'm like, hey, so what's up? He closes the door, and then he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I said, well, what do you mean, what am I doing? I said, well, is everything okay? And he says, no, everything's fine. He says, but you've been in the business 6 months, and you've taken like 10 listings. So I'd like to know what you're doing. And I said, well, you told me to call for sale by owners, and that's all I've been doing. So I listed about 22 for sale by owners my first year, Bill.
That's awesome. That's great.
And I didn't know anybody. That's all I was calling, though.
Yeah. It's interesting, because when we get too much information, it messes our head up a little bit. And I want to remind everybody too, if you have any questions, this is an opportunity to ask questions, because we've all went through the same thing. I mean, it's not like we jumped into business and all of a sudden had 30, 40, 50 deals. I mean, you start out at zero every day. And so, Marcos, how do you stay consistently doing things? I mean, what drives someone? You got a family, you got 2 kids, how long have you been in the business already?
I got into the business in 2012. That's when I got my license, and I just jumped right in.
So how do you stick it? How do you stay with it and still
how do I stay with it?
Dressed and do this stuff every day?
Well, I think I don't have a plan B, Bill.
Yeah.
There's no other option. I got into it. I got a family, like you said. I got to pay bills. And so I just know I have to go to work every day. It's like, it's not even a question mark. Should I go to work? Should I sleep in? It's just not even in my mind. I just wake up just like a person that has a job, and I say, I just know I'm going to go to work tomorrow. it just, I don't know how to explain it. And
Yeah,
some
no, but
people have
you were
options.
committed. You were committed because tell them about your move. I mean, you actually wanted to go into a higher price range
Right.
and you decided I'm going to move. So explain to them a little bit about how that happened.
That was a very interesting decision I made because when I got into real estate, I knew I was getting paid on commission. So I said, you know, where I used to live, the average price was maybe 250, 300. I used to live in Riverside County. And for those of you that know California, and I said, you know, what if I'm going to do the same amount of work and get paid, you know, $6,000? Why don't I just move somewhere where I'm going to get paid more? And I made that move, and you know, it was hard. It was a hard, you know, move to make, but eventually we're here now, and I have now I can do a little bit less units and get paid more, or if I want to make more money, do more units. It was
Yeah, but
you know,
how
it was
that's a
great.
big that was a big. I mean, you just said, listen, we're gonna roll the dice. So that means you're gonna be confident in your own ability, right? You're confident that, hey, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna start prospecting and get more leads. But did it all start? I mean, how fast were you able to start to see things move up the ladder there?
You know, it took a few years. I mean, obviously there's a mindset that you have to acquire, and that's why I try to read a book on mindset as much as I can, because you know you have self-doubt. I mean, I'm a human being. I'm thinking, hey man, like, you know, what am I missing? Because I would go to appointments and I wouldn't get the listings, and it was a learning curve of going from a lower price point to a more sophisticated seller, I would say, that they you know, they have more expectations, and you got to be able to provide a better customer service.
So are you saying that the jump to that higher price, you had to sharpen your skills even a little bit more than it was before? I mean,
It
you're
was
in it
more
for the price.
competitive. It was
Okay,
more
got it.
competitive, and so here's a quick example. You know, I always wear a suit, right?
Right.
So I in Riverside County, that's not that normal. So you just show up in a suit, and they're like, you're hired, because the other guy's wearing like jeans or
Yeah,
shorts
right.
or whatever, right? So when I got to Orange County, I said, well, you know, I wear a suit every day, and but here everyone else wears a suit. So now it's like, okay, now you got to improve your skills, and I think that's where you know, role playing and being affiliated with a good coaching company is always going to help you improve your skills.
Yeah, and then mindset. You know, you have distractions like anybody else, and what I like about you is that, hey, it's not like you're you know, you just landed all these deals. I mean, you do have the normal things that everybody has when they're prospecting, right? You've got all the leads coming in, and then distractions happen. How do you keep yourself focused on making sure you're making the calls every day?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's really hard to do, but you just got to make the calls as soon as you walk in the door. And you gotta, if you got an office, shut the door, because if not, then people just, you get the stray cats and the stray dogs come in, you know, and they want to ask you questions, or they just want to talk to you, you know. So you got to shut the door. You got to put a sign out there, because they knock too. If you shut the door and you don't got a sign out there, they'll knock. Hey, open the door. So I put a sign out there, and I get it done in the morning, the first half of the morning from 8 to 11. Then I'll do follow up, and then from there the day does kind of get away from you if you have no control, because then you got transactions to deal with. You're trying to preview homes, you're trying to pick up new business, and then you got to go to lunch. So I try to stay in the office for lunch. That helps me with less distractions.
yeah, and it's sort of we actually had some signs then up. I remember a couple years ago, Espresso, we had some signs for agents. But so what you're saying is you're controlling the people because the world's going to distract you, right? All the stuff starts to come in. You got to push it back, and you've got to stay with your program. So the morning, how many hours are you putting in prospecting?
I put in at least 3 hours a day, you know, in the morning.
Okay.
And the big thing, I think the easiest way to tell people to leave you alone is, because I tell people, look, I got a family. I'm trying to get home by 5 o'clock, because if I can't hit my 30 contacts, I can't go home. So I tell them, look, I'm not going to talk to you over going home. So I said, what do you need? Do you need? Can it wait till later? If not, then we'll talk to you later, because I want to go home with my family at 5 o'clock, because I can't leave until I do 30.
How often do you stay
And I
on
think
that
that
schedule?
helps.
How often do you stay on that 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock thing?
How often?
Percentage, 50%, 80%, 90%.
I want to say probably 70% of the time I'm leaving by 6.
Okay, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good. I mean,
yeah.
I listen. I did the same thing. I had 6 kids, and having to get home at a certain time, I needed to, and you're not going to get home every day at the same time. But if you can control a majority of it, which it seems like you have, so in this whole thing of leaving where you were, you decided to go up. Now your average price is what? Around what?
Right around 750 to 800.
And you left what price?
300.
So you basically you doubled your income.
Yeah, doubled it. Yeah, and
At
that
least.
was it was probably the best thing I could do. And again, it's hard to do. I don't recommend someone do it. Just jump ship. But I mean, that's the best way to do it.
I mean,
You just got to do it.
How was that discussion with your wife about this? Was she on board? I mean, what was going on there?
Well, well, I'm a pretty good salesman, so I sold her on it.
Very good, very good. We'll give you that.
I sold her on it,
all right.
And then, but there was a few times where obviously we had challenges, and you just have to work through them.
Yeah, I mean, because that is pretty big deal, having to move in. I mean, that's a commitment. First of all, the confidence that you have in yourself and your ability to prospect. So, so talk a little bit about this whole aspect of prospecting now. Just some of the mechanics of it, because I think sometimes people forget. I mean, are you sitting? Are you standing? Tell me how you set yourself up.
Yeah, well, I'm standing right now. I mean, I have a stand-up desk. It goes down and it goes up. I got it at Costco for like $250. It's great. I got like a foam pad underneath. I take my shoes off, and I just prospect with some music in the background. I got a couple screens up. One where I got my what is it, the dialer that I use, and then on one side I have like the MLS. I have some music in the background, and I just go, and then I take a break every, I don't know, hour and 15 minutes, go out to use the bathroom, come back, and then just jump back on it, and then go through the lead sources. I think the biggest thing for me was to move through lead sources instead of staying on one. I think that helped me a lot with being able to do more units, because if you get stuck on one and it's not giving, before I would just stay on it. I'd be like, it's got to give. I got to do my 30 contacts through the expireds, and that could take you 4 hours, because a lot of them aren't answering the phone no more.
So you're mixing it up.
Yeah, and then if you jump into, like, for example, an absentee owner, in an hour you might get 12 contacts because not a lot of people are calling them. Or if you jump on, I call these 2-bedroom condos, 2-bedroom homes. Less people are calling, so I'll get 15 contacts in an hour out of those sometimes.
I want to talk about something that because you have multiple sources. I mean, would you say the bread and butter is let's say you're still always doing FSBOs and expireds, right? You're still doing that.
That happens at 8 o'clock. That's the first source. Yeah.
Let me hold on. I got lights coming in here. I can see it messing up. Okay, so we have FSBOs, expireds, and then how many of those you do? When do you switch to the other source?
I just do that for an hour.
Okay.
We might have 20, 30 expireds every day, at most. Right now it's less because the market's so hot. So you got to really mix it in. So I try not to spend more than an hour on them.
And you're what's interesting too, you are doing, because we have the neighborhood search, right? So you can put numbers in and hit an area. And when you're hitting an area, you're finding something that I think more people got to find when you're doing this generic calling, or I don't know, let's say circle prospecting, where you put a number in and tell them what you found last 2 months by doing that type of calling, because you did find a source that I think is going to be growing.
Right. As far as like so I call so you're asking me about the source, or?
Yeah, well, you were doing the generic calling and you found out about these other sources, these people that needed to get out of their house because they didn't have enough, or they had equity, but
the forbearance people.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So and this again is going to be based on your skill level and asking more questions, right? So sometimes they'll brush you off and they'll say, no, I'm not interested in selling. So you just got to dig a little deeper and ask one more question. And sometimes you ask the right question and then they open up. Next thing you know, they're telling me that they're in forbearance, which means that they've been affected by COVID and they've contacted their bank and said they can't make the payments, and the bank's okay with that. And then they have to repay it at the end. So these people, they need help. You know, I mean, because if they're being affected financially, they're not able to pay that forbearance or those payments that they were forgiven back in 90 days or in 6 months later. So that's a good source, I think.
Yeah. And so when they opened up, now you got to set that appointment. What did you say to get them to want to at least see it? Because this is a tough, you know, this is not a, it's not going to be a fun conversation, but how did you get them to get the appointment with you?
Well, I just ask them if you know, if it made financial sense to consider looking at some options, because you know, at the end of the day they're going to have to pay those backed up payments. And if, you know, I asked them what would happen if they had to make those payments, and they said, well, I don't have any, I probably not going to be able to do it. So then I just said, hey, let me go take a look at the whole house and I'll show you some options, and then you guys can decide what you want to do. I mean, it was a little hard at first because they don't really open up, you know, and then once they do, I kind of almost feels like it's a pain button, you know, that right. Once they open up.
And how many, last couple of months, how many did you list?
I got 4 that, you know, that already closed and are still in escrow. From that forbearance thing. The thing is that there's no way to find them. I wish there was a way that that would kind of like with the foreclosures, there's nothing recorded on title, so there's no way to find them. You just gotta do circle dialing and ask questions, and you'll find them.
Yeah. So 2 critical things is that you've got to keep calling, and it's going to be a lot of calls, and you've got to ask those questions that you're asking. But I think another thing that that we're overlooking that you're good at is your tonality, because if it sounded too much like you're trying to make a commission, they're going to probably shut you down because the flight or fight syndrome comes in. But whatever you said made them feel comfortable to talk to you. Now, when you went to the house, what did you find out? Because these people need to live somewhere. So where are they going? Where are they going after getting out of their house?
Well, the good news is that it's not like last time where people were short selling. You know, these people actually have equity, so then they're able to pay the money back that's owed on the forbearance, and then they're able to still have money to move. Right. Now they won't be able to buy, so like they're looking to either rent and then get back on their feet, and then they'll buy later. So you know, the good thing is that the forbearance is not affecting their credit. As far as like the home, I don't know about everything else. Like,
yeah, good point.
Like if they got car payments and stuff that maybe they're late on, I mean, that's something else. But as far as the home, it's not affecting their credit. So if you can help them sell the home, and then also help them find the lease, because now they need somewhere to go rent because they don't have the income to buy a home. That doesn't mean 2 years later or a year later they're not back on their feet and now they can buy a home and use you again.
Right. Do you think, and I'm not know this for sure, but I think I know the answer here, but by continuing to call the FSBOs and the expires, could you run across some of this?
Absolutely. And I think there's, as we continue to move forward, there's going to be more people that are in this scenario. Again, I just found them through prospecting. It wasn't like I had a forbearance lead source to find them. But I think as we continue to move forward, we're going to find more people, because this COVID thing has impacted people financially, whether we see it or not. It's happening.
Right, right. So it's a delicate situation. Obviously we're not. You're coming across as someone coming from a contribution. Let's just say they're right. There to help them. But 4 in the last 2 months, with an average price range of what?
Probably 750. They're anywhere from 500. I got one right now in escrow for $1,165,000. That's in forbearance.
So it's in all ranges. It's not just in the highs or the. I mean, it's across the board. People, yeah. What made them decide to want to sell versus hanging in there trying to work a deal with the mortgage company? Do you think?
Well, I just asked them. I kind of future paced them when I sat down with them. I just asked them. I said, look, I mean, what do you think is going to change for you in 6 months from now? Is your business going to be back where it was, 3 months ago? And he said, honestly, I don't know where my business is going to be. And so I said, well, then, do you want to wait until we're in that situation where you might have to foreclose on the home, or look at different options? Or would you rather just put the home on the market now and wait, and not wait to have your back against the wall? And he says, well, that's why you're here, because I would rather sell it and take advantage of my equity before I'm in a bad situation.
Right, which is smart, and I think you made a great point that they have equity. They do have, they're not walking away destitute here. They do have some money that they can go out. And are they finding where they're moving to is out of their price range now, or do they have to scale down? What, just in general, I'm just curious, what are you finding out?
Well, these folks are scaling down, and so they're renting a place, they're thinking that once his business gets back on his feet, then maybe he'll buy another home. But he was downsizing anyways. It was a 2-story home,
right?
And that's how I found him. I was counting those 2-story homes.
All right, yeah. So what's interesting, and for those of you that are listening, if you have any questions, because it's growing. It's another source. By calling the FSBOs and expired, you're finding things by going in and doing those neighborhood searches and making those calls and those numbers. You're going to have to ask these questions. So let's go down to that one question. So you're getting done. You're going down the call. The person is going to probably feel comfortable in telling you something. If not, but what is that question you asked them again that got them to give you that information?
Yeah. So the big question is, I would say, hey, Bill, tell me, would there be anything that might cause you to consider selling in the future?
Okay.
And then from there, they're like, well, if I could sell now, and then that's where that guy said, well, I got this forbearance thing going on. If I can't get my business back where it was, then I might have to sell. And so, because at first I asked him if he would consider selling the home on the first part of the script, and he's like, well, I'm not sure, and you try back with me in a few months, he said. And so from there, I said, okay, well, I got to ask one more question, and that's when I asked that one question. Tell me, would there be anything that would, cause you to consider selling in the future? And that's when he said about the forbearance, and I said, well, then, maybe we should meet and go over some options.
All right. So here's what I also heard, what you just said, is that just because they say something in the beginning, if you're not asking the right question, you're not going to get the truth out. So he wasn't in a defensive posture in the beginning, or just didn't want to give up information, but you asked it again. And this is so critical, because I think we get off the phone too fast and we're not uncovering the information, because those 4 deals that you have now in escrow, I don't know, depending on your commission, I don't want to get into exactly what that is, but that's a whole lot of money, and you're helping these people. And some of them could some of them buy? I mean, they don't have bad credit. I mean, they're just getting out of it. They could be purchasing, right?
Yeah, they could be downsizing. And that's the other thing. I mean, yeah. That's what these folks right now, as we're out there showing them rentos, they're like, hey, maybe I should just buy something. And he's thinking about having his daughter use his daughter as the credit source, because she has the income to buy a home.
Right. Isn't that great? So, yeah. A couple things that I don't want to miss. First of all, don't you ever want to not get dressed up to go to work?
No, not no more. It's just part of the deal now. I just know that. And then, so what happens on Fridays or something like that, I'll think about not maybe dressing up. But then I think to myself, well, you're going to call FSBOs and expireds in the morning. What if someone says yes? So I always have the intention to dress up, because I'll make a call and someone says, come over now. What are you going to do? Go home and shower or get ready? I don't know.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are not prepared to win. See, you're coming in saying, I am prepared to win today. And doesn't it affect your mindset when you're dressed up? And you start to feel different when you're making your calls. I think we've gotten a little bit laxed on that in some cases in our industry, but can you imagine? I don't even think you could imagine making calls without getting dressed up. I mean, you're not the same person, I don't think. Do you?
No, I mean it's there's that book called Alter Ego, and that I read, and I found it interesting because this is my alter ego. It's like when I put my suit on, I'm no longer Marcos, the husband and the father. Now I'm the sales executive.
Hmm. Very good point. Very good point. I mean, that is so critical right now. And then you can go back to having the kids give you a hard time, and you go back to being pleasing to your wife. But when you're in the mode of real estate, you're the CEO.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine not feeling that way? What would happen if you didn't feel that way going into the day? What would happen to your business? Or what would happen to your prospect?
Well, it would be the way you're dressed. It'd be casual, right? So if you're dressed casual, you're going to behave casual. So, where I come to my office, it's an office building. Across the hall, there's an attorney's office. I'm here before they are, and I'm dressed better than they are half the time. And I've gone over there and I've asked them for business, because I'm always in a suit, and they respected me, and they said, okay, we'll set an appointment. Because you look professional. If I would have went over there in some flip flops and said, hey, I'm a realtor across the hall there, I'd like to talk to you about how we can help each other earn business. I mean, they'd be like, dude, you're wearing flip flops.
Yeah.
It helps me out. It does. And I wouldn't come to work any other way.
And what a great point. And that for those of you that maybe not feeling that you can be that person, it starts with that. It starts with creating that. And that book that you said, Alter Ego, I've read the book. It's a very good book. The book is written by Todd Herman. And Todd Herman talks about the athletes that he's trained and coached, and some of the celebrities and some people in the corporate world that didn't believe in themselves, and how the athletes do. I mean, some of these athletes, if you guys know some of these people, they're different off the field, but they have to create this alter ego in the field of play. And your field of play happens to be making the calls. And now we're creating, the market has created other sources. The FSBOs and expireds are always going to be, would you agree, your bread and butter, your mainstay in making calls. Could you ever see yourself not calling them?
No, because those are now business. There's so many ways to do this business, as you know, Bill. I mean, you can market, you can buy it, do all kinds of things. But what I like about prospecting, and why I continue to do it, is that it's the most consistent thing that I can rely on. Because see, I can bet on myself that if I come to work and I put in the time and make the calls, I'm going to get business just out of the consistency, out of the law of averages, right?
Right.
And if you're doing other stuff, you're relying on the other stuff bringing you the leads, which is great. I'm not saying that that's not a good way to do it, but this is probably the most, I think, consistent way to do it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
More predictable.
More predictable.
In doing that, because we have, in real estate, we get into the I have money, I don't have money. I love real estate, I hate real estate. I want to get another job, and that's all like in the morning before lunch. You start feeling these ups and downs, and by making that call gives you a sense of control that you typically don't have when you're spending money on ads or you're spending money on Facebook. And I think they serve their purpose. And I think you have to have we talk about an inbound and an outbound method.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you got your outbound, you're grabbing it and pulling it in. Not only that, when you list the house, do you tell them what you do and how to get business? You let them know that you're making those outbound calls?
Well, what I do is I usually have 5 or 10 cards on me, and as soon as I walk out the door, I'll knock on the doors to the left and to the right and say, hey, your neighbor's home's for sale. Do you know anyone that wants to move into it? Here's my card. Call me. So I try to show them right then and there.
Oh, that's cool. So they know you're telling them you're making the outbound calls. When you get the listing, you're telling them
we're gonna make. I tell them, look, we're gonna do what most other companies do, all the internet stuff, but more importantly, we're gonna call around your listing and let people know that your home's for sale. Because there might be someone that's renting that wants to now buy, or they might know somebody that likes the neighborhood and wants to move in. So we ask them, who do they know? And I ask them if that would make sense for them, and they say, "Wow, I didn't know you guys did that."
How do you handle the competition, especially in Southern California, man? You have a lot of real estate agents in a tight spot, right?
Yeah.
And how do you handle that competition that's in there? That's a fierce competition.
They're and I learned this in having conversations with you, and also in experiences. There is no competition besides the one that's in between my ears. So the more and more I get out there, even and this was a big deal when I first moved out to Orange County. I used to think that I needed certain things to compete with the other realtors. And as the more and more I do this, I go compete against some of the realtors that I think or I thought were maybe better than me because they farm the area or they do whatever, they market the area. And then you go compete with them and they don't even have a listing presentation. They don't even know what to say. Like they show up and they're like, "Hi, I'm the presentation. Here's the comps and here's a picture of me and my puppy and all the stuff that they do." And they don't ask questions and they don't build rapport by asking questions. And I think that's how you build that relationship and you bring that invisible barrier down by you're getting to know them by asking them questions. Where are you moving to? Where'd you move from? What brought you here? What's important about this move to you and your family? Instead of talking about myself, I'm trying to learn about their situation.
Oh, that's great. So you have people watching and listening that are just not that consistent. They're afraid to make those calls because they're afraid to get rejections. What advice can you give them to help them get over the hump that you've experienced?
Right.
Because I know some of you are watching and going, "Man, I don't know if I can compete. I don't know if I can make the calls. I'm afraid someone's going to hang up on me." What advice can you give them?
Well, the first advice I would say is role play. Learn your scripts. Know what to say because, if you're not confident on what you're going to talk to someone about when you meet with them, you're probably hesitant to get on the phone. Have some sort of listing presentation, a process, an outline, and practice it over and over. And then you talked about those cycles, and I've learned that through different conversations with you and other people is that real estate is a 90-day cycle. So what you do or don't do today is going to affect you 90 days later, and you don't even know it. So like, for example, me, I took 2 weeks off during the holidays, Bill, but because I understand the 90-day cycle, I'm not as hard as I used to be on myself. Because see, I would guess at this point I'd be stressed out. I'm not, I don't have the amount of listings that I usually like to carry because I took 2 weeks off and I said, I just need to build my pipeline and be more consistent now more than ever. And then have, having empathy for yourself for the when you're not getting the results that you are looking for, instead of being hard on yourself, just look at the gold in the situation instead of the dirt and say, you know what, I showed up to work today and I put 3 hours of prospecting in, and tomorrow's another day.
Yeah, that's great advice. You just got to stick with it because it'll be there. If you're talking to enough people, it's going to be there. And we get so hung up on this guy's going to hang up on me, or I don't know what to say. Well, role playing immediately will help you. Now, you could role play with not a really good person too. I mean, so you really want to make sure you have someone that's similar, right? With your motivation, your desire to succeed.
Right.
So you all have to do that, and really when you think about it, and I could hear people go, "Guys, there's got to be an easier way." You've been in this business since 2012. So you've been in 8 years already, right? Mm-hmm. You moved from another place to this place. You actually gave yourself a raise when you did that, but it took you 2 years. So obviously you had confidence that if I stick with it, it's going to work. So you have to have a strong belief in yourself, right? And what you're doing. And then you said something about mindset and reading. So role playing and then reading is like important too.
It's critical. It's critical, Bill, because as you go through your day, you're going to get rejected. If you're making cold calls, and here's the other thing too. I mean, let's not just talk about cold calling people. Let's talk about calling your database, friends, family, past
Right.
clients as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just cold calling everyone. And that's where I talk about going through the lead sources. So contact your friends and family. They want to talk to you. I try not to talk to them because the conversations are 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
You're right.
but talk to them and work on your skills and just be consistent and having blind faith. What you said. I'm now. I've been in this business now about 8 years, going on 9. I barely have started having that faith where I don't worry about money no more.
Mm.
And it took me a long time to get there because now I trust, because now I have a history, right? What did you do in the last 8 years? And I could track and see, well, you've done this much, you've done that much. And so it's pretty obvious that you'll probably do the same thing if you don't change anything. But what happens if you improve?
Yeah.
So I think that's why if I was an agent, maybe listening to this, and maybe I've been in the business 4 years, and I'd look back and say, well, how much income did I make over the last 4 years? And I would say you're probably going to make the same amount of income this year if you don't change anything.
Right.
So the income comes anyways, and you just got to have that faith that it's going to come, and then just be consistent and go to work.
It's so interesting you say that. You just said, hey, if you want to have dramatic change, you're going to have to change dramatically. You change dramatically and had dramatic change in your income. But because they don't teach us, I mean, they talk about consistency, but you invest, you're an independent contractor, it's your own money. You can do anything, man. There's all kinds of companies trying to pull you in to spend money with them. Yeah. And what I hear you're saying is that your abilities, or you worked on your ability, which gives you more control on the outcome because it's you making that phone call out there and bringing something in versus here's this money I'm spending to a company that's supposed to bring me these great leads it's not there. Or right. If it's there, you're spending a lot. So I really understand that. So there was something here I wrote down in your schedule and stopping people to bother you. You must know what your worth is per hour, because if you don't know how much you're worth, you're going to let people bother you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that for me, the easiest way to tell people is I want to go home. And in order for me to go home, Bill, I have to hit 30 contacts today. And if I talk to you, that means I'm going to go home later than I want to. So unless it's important,
that makes sense.
And I think that was a big thing. So people come in, sometimes I have to open the door because the AC don't work too well in here. They let the air in, and then people come in and then they're like, they start talking to you. And I'm like, dude, hey, it's cool, but I want to go home at 5 today. So can we talk later? And then they go away. It's hard at first because if they're your friends or, I have a friend that's here and he's a lender and he always wants to talk about golf. And I'm like, dude, I want to go home at 5. I got kids, and then he goes away,
That's understanding what your goals are this year for your family and for your financial goals for yourself. I mean, I think that's great. So Marcos, this has been really good. And I hope everybody's taking some notes and really understanding and I think you, I, and everybody at Espresso, we're empathetic to the challenges that you have in yourself to get business, that you got to grow. I mean, if you look at yourself, Marcos, from where you were in 2012 to now, what percentage of growth you think you've had in those years? 2%? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's I can't even fathom how much I've changed because coaching is huge and critical for me. I mean, I've been a coaching program for about 6 years, 6 out of the 8 years that I've been in real estate. And so, I mean, I've evolved. I'm not the same person no more. I mean, from being versatile and I struggle with being versatile. but now I just let it out a little better. I just try to be human, and be empathetic with people instead of just me, because I'm a little more like the driver, expressive side,
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
out. And then I just try to just mow things down. And but now it's like, okay, well, I got to be empathetic. I got to understand that this sale it's about this person, not about me. And and when I first got into real estate, my broker told me, he says, hey, it's not about the money, it's about the people. But I was broke, Bill. So
Yes.
I was like, no.
I don't know if I believe that.
I was like, no way, it's about the money to me. And it took me a long time. And I want to tell you that probably over the last year, I finally realized that it's not about the money, it's about the people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And when you do that, it makes your job easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And your skills grow, and you have more confidence in your skill. All that is full circle, which I think is great. Listen, this has been great, Marcos. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your stuff. So if someone needs to get a hold of you, if they want to ask you questions, how can they do that?
I mean, they could shoot me a text message or an email. I mean, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, give it to me. I'll write it. I'll type it in right now. What is it?
Yeah. Okay. So my email is marcogroupkw@gmail.com. So that's marcogroupkw@gmail.com. And my phone number is 949-677-1233.
Okay, so I got 949-677-1233, right?
Yeah.
All right, good.
And then just text me, and then I'll get back to you what time we could talk.
Yeah, that's right. And don't ruin the schedule here. But listen, guys, thank you. Thank you so much, Marcos. It was great. Thanks for sharing those tips. And guys, keep prospecting. Don't forget, also on Mondays, we're going to talk on some, giving you guys some more tips. I'm going to work with some of you all on Monday morning launch. So if you're in Espresso, please show up, and you and I can work together on Monday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Marcos, thank you so much, man.
Okay, thank you, guys.
See ya.